the record. Oh, there we go. All right, let's do this. Yeah, so the purpose of this is to give a good idea of what the Executive Council map proposal is, so that we can get some good testimony on, is it Friday or Thursday? I think it's Thursday.
Thursday, yeah.
Yeah. So the Senate map and the Executive Council map are up for a public hearing on Thursday. So if you want to look at the analysis of the Senate map, it's up on YouTube. And then we'll just go through the Executive Council tonight. So this is just, yeah, explaining there's two bills still kind of in progress. Well, three kind of. The New Hampshire House map has already been signed into law. The congressional map is in kind of a limbo state where Sununu said he would veto the proposed map. So, and then nothing else has really been done with that, except today the New Hampshire Supreme Court came out and said that they need to get something done by, I think it was early May, or the New Hampshire Supreme Court is going to have a special person do the map on their own. So they're going to bypass the legislature unless they get something done in the next month. So that's a good thing. So a couple takeaways from the map. So initially the Republicans put forward the same exact map as in 2010. Most people have seen that, and it's called the Dragon, where District 2 goes from Keene to Concord all the way over to Dover and Durham. It's been, labeled as gerrymandered, and it's been a kind of the poster child of gerrymandering in New Hampshire. This proposal is actually more partisan gerrymandered than the other one, so it's actually kind of worse. It may look a little bit better, but in like partisanship wise, strictly, it's a worse map. It's slightly better in terms of some of the communities of interest and worse in other cases, but we can jump into it. So in the center here is the map that is being currently proposed. And then on the left is the Democrat proposal, which was kind of voted down. And then on the right, you can see our Mapathon proposal. So we'll step through kind of each of these, highlight the benefits and the detriments of each. Here's kind of just a quick overview. The one thing that the Republican map has to its advantage is that it's a really low deviation. And so all the districts are very close in population. So that's what that means. Our map is kind of a close second. And then the Democrats map is pretty wide, but uses less than the kind of 10% that's allowable under the courts. So the Democrats' proposal is more compact than any of the other maps. Our map keeps high school SAUs together the best. The Republicans is the worst. Ours keeps public health regions. The Republicans is worst. Regional planning boards, ours and the Democrats do really good. And then the Democrats keep counties together. And I'll run through that. It's kind of what their map was designed to do, was to keep counties together. So they do a really good job at it. And the Republicans only keep one county together in their map. So here's kind of the old map. You can see what I was talking about, the Dragon in District 2, going all the way from Hinsdale all the way to Durham. So it kind of grabs up Democrats in the Keene area, the Concord area, and then the Dover area, and tries to pack as many as possible into one district so that there are less Democrats in the other 4 districts. So you can see that in District 2, it's got like a 10-point Democrat advantage, so that the rest of them have a more Republican lean to them. And overall, this map was it's reasonably competitive. You know, Democrats won in 2018, but it was a lot more gerrymandered 10 years ago than it was today, which is why I think they updated to a new map. Yes, Liz?
Dave, you say that District 2 is competitive, and yet there's a almost 10 points difference between the two. Explain.
Yeah, it's barely in our competitive metric. So we used anything within 55 to 45% as competitive. It's not really, it's not super competitive, but you know, on a huge swing year, that'll flip. That could possibly flip. But
in the past 10 years, it has not. It has been Democrat every one of those 10 years, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Whereas District 1 did flip once or twice.
District 1 flipped, District 5 flipped, and District 3 flipped, I believe. Or maybe it was just 1 and 5. At least 1 and 5 flipped in 2018. So this is the new proposal from the majority. You can see that it's even more packed. So now it is not competitive anymore, District 2, because it goes from it is 4.2% more Democrat than the other map. So instead of kind of reaching out and grabbing the Dover-Durham area, it reaches up and grabs kind of the Hanover area. The North Grafton is pretty Democratic, and then the Plymouth area as well. And then it kind of reaches out and also grabs Peterborough out here. So you can see that it's almost like kind of tentacles kind of reaching out and grabbing Democratic areas to the north, and then to the Concord area, and then to the kind of Peterborough area. So this map is actually less competitive than the old map. It also has less counties kept together. So it only has one. Carroll County is the only county that is intact. Even Coas, they took Carroll and put that in District 2, and all the other counties are also split up. Yeah, Liz? Oh, sorry. And then also, so they did get a little bit better. They went from 19 split high school SAUs to 17, which I think they probably did by accident. I don't think they were intending to do that at all. So that's kind of a non-factor in it. It's got a very low compactness score in DRA because of kind of the tendrils out. There's some reasonably compact districts. District 4 and District 3 are reasonably compact. 5 is not, 2 is not, and 1 is kind of not, just because it reaches down and grabs Durham. Yeah, so this is the map that's currently being proposed, and which we all need to go out and testify about on Thursday. So what happens is it packs 4.2% more Democrats, and then all the other districts, well, besides 3 actually stays the same in terms of partisanship, but District 1, which was the most competitive of the districts, becomes 4.2% more Republican. And then District 5 becomes a little bit more Republican, 1.6%, and District 4 a little bit more Republican, 0.8%. So this map is a lot less competitive than the old map. Here is the Democrats' proposal. And what they did was they tried to keep counties together. So I think it's all but Rockingham and Hillsborough are all kept together. So this is Cheshire's kept together, Sullivan's kept together, Grafton, Carroll, Coas, and Belknap, and then Merrimack too, I believe, is all kept together. Oh, and Stratford. So 8 out of the 10. So that's pretty much what they were trying to do with this map. It's very clear to me that they were trying to keep counties together. And in doing so, they came out with a pretty competitive map in that, you know, their District 4 is pretty heavily lean Republican. But overall, this is going to be a pretty reasonably competitive map, and it'll swing kind of back and forth, you know, if it was ever in place, which it won't be. This is the Mapathon proposal. It may look a little funky, but what it is it's following high school SAU boundaries. So that's what we tried to do with ours. It keeps more boundaries together. It keeps more kind of planning commissions together, and is again a pretty competitive map, which will, you know, swing back and forth. I want to jump out of this real quick and just show you what the so this is the Republican proposal here, and I just want to kind of highlight why they did what they did. So if I turn off the districts here, you'll be able to see kind of what they did. So you can see all the blue is lean Democrat towns, all the red is lean Republican towns. So what they did was they grabbed all of Keene, which is heavily Democrat. They grabbed Concord, which is heavily Democrat, and New London, and then they grabbed the Hanover area, and then they reached up and grabbed kind of Northern Grafton and Plymouth, which is Democrat. So if I put it back up, you'll kind of be able to see that it pretty much follows all of the blue lines, which is pretty apparent that they did this for kind of partisan gain. But yeah, that's about it. Does anybody have any questions on this? It's actually pretty quick because it's just you know, 5 districts. So here's the currently proposed map.
Well, this is Walter. I had a question. I mean, yeah, you've presented 3 maps. We know the Senate proposal. Between the Map-A-Thon and the minority map, I mean, who's speaking out? Are we speaking out with one voice, or are we still, or is the are they asking to choose between the Map-A-Thon and the Democratic map? I mean, how does that work?
I think that it really is up to you, but I would focus on kind of talking against this map more than for any of the other ones, just because they're probably not going to listen to us much, but if we can just highlight that this is just as gerrymandered, if not more gerrymandered than the 2010 map, which Sununu said was kind of funky and like unacceptable. What we need to do is kind of put more pressure onto Sununu by coming out against this map. The only real chance we have is to put pressure on against this map. If you want to say, you know, if you like the Democrats' proposal the most, or you like Mapathon's proposal the most, then you can definitely highlight those. And both are pretty good maps. They come at it from different angles. They're both competitive, and they both kind of keep different communities of interest in mind. You know, Democrats keep the counties together, which is a good thing, and the Mapathon keeps high school SAUs and other communities of interest together, which is also a good thing. The Republican proposal does not do either. So I would highlight that this breaks up more counties than the other map does. It is more partisan than the other map is. Those are kind of the 2 things that that make it a really bad map. I don't know if we can come up with a new description for this district. You know, we had the dragon before, which I think was perfect. So if anybody has any idea of what we can name this district, I'm all ears.
Wait, I would like to say one thing, David.
Sure.
And that is that if I were a Republican living in District 2, I would feel pretty damn PO'd that they had made it such that my voice would never be heard in the next 10 years because they slanted it so badly against Republicans. I mean, why do they hate Republicans so badly? That's, you know, you have to look at it from a partisan standpoint. It's not that the maps are against Democrats, they're really against Republicans. You know, that is, you know, disenfranchises a lot of Republicans along the Connecticut River Valley. And that just doesn't seem like a very nice thing to do to your fellow Republicans.
That's true. Yeah. So yeah, that's another great thing to highlight. Highlighting the fact that a Republican in District 2
Right.
will never be able to have a Republican executive counselor. Highlighting that, you know, free markets are great. We want free markets. We want fair elections. We want fair districts. We want to be able to, you know, vote any single, you know, person out of office every 2 years. You know, we want to be able to, if the Democrat in District 2 is not doing what the people in District 2 want them to do, they should be able to be voted out. But that's not the case with this map. It would take a kind of Herculean effort to oust a Democrat in District 2 or a Republican in District 4. District 5 and District 1, I could definitely see being flipped. District 3 has been, the Seacoast has been trending more Democratic over the last 10 years. And so if that trend continues, I could see District 3 being more of a swing district in the later years of the redistricting cycle. But you could definitely have a competitive race in District 5 in the next few years. But it would be almost impossible to elect a Republican in District 2 or a Democrat in District 4. So,
Hey, David, this is Joanne. Do you have
Hi.
any idea how many Republicans they moved? I mean, how many Democrats were moved into District 2? And exactly how many of each party there are now in District 2?
I don't have the exact number. I don't think it was 4.2. Yeah, no, I don't have the exact percentage. I could get that to you later.
Yeah, what
But-
I was interested in was, you know, how the congressional district, we talked about how many towns were moved in, how many towns were moved into District 2. And so I think that would be a good figure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can look into that for you. It shouldn't be too difficult to do. Yeah, Liz.
Unmute, okay. I live near District 1, but I've actually been in a different district. So I'm well aware that District 1 has gone back and forth a little bit between a Republican and a Democrat. It's the same two people, okay, over the last 10 years, ever since Ray Burton passed away. Nobody could beat Ray Burton. But now the town where the Democrat lives is in District 2. So he was in District 1, ran for District 1, and they, I believe, deliberately moved that district so that the only one who's ever been able to compete with the current seat holder in District 1 is no longer in that district.
Wow.
The Senate made a lot of noise about, especially in the Senate map, of preserving seats. They said we weren't going to change districts so that a sitting senator isn't in his own district anymore. And the only exceptions to that in the Senate maps were two senators, one who was moving and one who said he wasn't going to run again. I think in this one, I don't know what's true. I don't know if every single one of the sitting executive counselors remains in the same district. Do you?
They do, yes. All of the sitting executive counselors are still in their same districts. I know that is true. I didn't realize that the challenger or the previous incumbent was
Right.
was kind of kicked out. That makes a lot more sense of why they moved this too.
Well, he happens to live in Hanover. So if they wanted to get Hanover, the Democrat town, they got a twofer there, right? They got rid of the one challenger in District 1, and they got the very, very Democrat town of Hanover.
Mhm.
So that kind of ticks me off.
Yeah, that's another good point to make in the hearing. Does anybody have anything else?
Dave, I was a couple minutes late tuning in, but I think as I was coming in, I think I heard you say something about if there is not a congressional district map by mid-May, it's going to the courts. Did I hear that?
Yep. Yeah. The New Hampshire Supreme Court came out today with a, I don't know what it's called, but a announcement thing where they kind of laid out. So someone had challenged the legislature to in the court system because, you know, they were kind of taking forever with the congressional districts. You know, we're one of, I think, 4 states that don't have a congressional district yet, and it's literally one line that you have to draw. So it was understandable that someone would challenge that they're kind of not expedient enough. So the Supreme Court kind of laid out a schedule for when things need to be done, or the Supreme Court was going to have a kind of I forget exactly what they called it, but someone draw a map, and then that would be the congressional map going forward. So I would guess that we'll probably start hearing about a congressional map in either the Senate or the New Hampshire House pretty soon, or it'll go to the Supreme Court and they'll draw a map, which I would assume will be pretty fair.
Yeah.
So
And
the
What
oral
the
arguments would
original
be
order was
scheduled.
for was, for just narrowly, the Supreme Court was taking original jurisdiction because the lawsuit was going to go through a lower court and then it would, could have been appealed and that would have taken time. So the Supreme Court, New Hampshire Supreme Court said, to skip that process, let's just have the Supreme Court handle the litigation.
Yep.
Given the timeline.
And those oral arguments are scheduled for May 4th.
Mhm.
So if we don't have a map set by then, that will happen. And a special master, somebody who has done this in the states of at least Pennsylvania and Connecticut, is named in this document and would have a special hearing on May 19th with the special master's proposal, I suppose you'd call it.
Mhm.
wow.
And May 19th is my birthday, so I'm really hoping
Wow.
for a good birthday present in
That would
a
be great.
nice, fair congressional map.
Yep.
Now, has House election law gotten copies of the alternative executive council and Senate maps from us, David?
From us,
Mapathon? Yeah,
like this, like our proposal for executive council and Senate.
correct.
Yes, it was a while ago that we did it, but and we'll be having these kind of handed out to them on Thursday as well. So they'll
Okay,
have,
great.
you know, they'll have our proposal.
I was, in fact, Liz was with me in a voting rights forum last weekend, and I believe I heard Representative Bergeron, he was also participating in that conversation. And I believe he said something like, I'm surprised no one from the public has come forward with their own suggestions for redistricting. And I was like, what? You know, I was just sitting there, you know, muted going, are you kidding me? So that's where that question comes from. Because I know that when the House maps were done and the congressional district maps were done over beginning in the House, there had been a lot of conversations about map drawing early on in the process. And I know that there were maps all over the place. There were posters of maps outside. There were maps at every hearing that I went to. So I'm assuming that this stuff is getting to the full committee.
Yep, and there was a process to submit like testimony, and all of our maps were submitted through that kind of official process via either the House Special Redistricting Committee or through the Senate Election Law Committee. So we submitted it, you know, multiple times in multiple different ways. So if they didn't see it, it's on them, I think.
But their memories are short because
Yeah.
they've been dealing with all kinds of other crazy election law bills and general things in the legislature. So what are the chances of getting printouts in color of this Map-A-Thon for executive council and for Senate, and submitting those as written testimony on the day of, with you there to answer questions? League will pay for that, David, if you want to do that. We'll
Mhm.
pay
Yeah,
for
yeah,
that
we can,
copying.
yeah, I'll talk with Olivia and Sarah, and we can get these, you know, printed out and given out to the House committee so that they have them, so they can look at them.
Yep, let's do that. I think that will make a difference if they have them right there in front of them.
Yeah,
And just send me the bill when you're done.
If there's anything I can do to help, you know, get those handed out or put them in, get them over to the mailbox people or whatever, feel free, because I'll be there all day Thursday.
Awesome.
You know, I think we want them handed out as testimony is given, and whoever is going to speak first for fair maps needs to
that would
hand
be
these
great.
out and say, if you have questions, Dave Andrews is here and he'll answer questions later.
Yeah, there you go.
So
Mhm.
we'll have them, and we don't know what order they pick for people to speak. But whoever goes first should be passing these out. We got to get aggressive here, people.
Yes, we
Yeah.
do. Yes, we do. I like that idea. I like that idea a lot.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And I just want to clarify that the hearings in the House Special Committee on Redistricting, not House Election Law.
I mean, well, that's what I
Um,
meant. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that's
Misspoke.
okay.
I have a question.
Misspoke.
After we, you know, when in our testimony, I understand we want to speak about the problems with the map. What is our ask of the committee? Are we asking them to vote ITL? Are we asking them to amend the map? Do we have a specific?
Um,
They can amend it, right, David? They
Yeah,
have that right.
yeah, and I would I expect that, you know, there will be at least one amendment put forth, most likely the Democrats map, you know, either probably both in committee and on the floor of the House. I would expect both those things, but we may see even more amendments. But I would expect, you know, in the Senate there may be a lot more, or in for the Senate map there may be a lot more amendments put forward. I know that in the Senate, the Donna Susie put forward, I don't even know how many amendments, like 5 or 6, trying to get very small changes done to the map, and they were like, no. So I don't know how many amendments, but yeah, we want to ask them to, you know, vote no on this map and, you know, put forward a fair, a map.
David, the calendar is posted that Thursday there could be an executive session to follow. The timeline is very short. They have to get the bill out of their committee within a couple of weeks. So there may be a vote by the full committee on Thursday, as the calendar has posted, or there may be time for them to convene another meeting. But I heard today that there might be a vote Thursday after the public input.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
And then depending on the outcome of that, then the pressure's on the governor to do the right thing.
And the pressure will be for the full House, for a floor vote
Yeah.
by the full House.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the governor just got another little message from me today, so. Oh, well, that's the way that goes. I just want to take 1 second to thank Open Democracy, to thank David, John Cross, Liz, all of you for educating us, to allow us to advocate for doing the right thing for democracy, regardless of what your party is. It's just been such an egregious exercise that I find it absolutely appalling. But it's one thing to be appalled, and it's another thing to be able to speak to it. So I thank all of you for empowering us with the tools that we needed to be able to exercise our voices. So thank you all so very much for doing all of what you've done this year.
I just want to echo, I see Jeff Smith and Ian and David and John Cross and the entire Map-A-Thon team for all of the overlays and the analysis and such amazing work, even to the Map-A-Thon team members that aren't on, but the tech team was terrific.
It's Greg Davis from Salem, New Hampshire. I'm just asking a question about the overall strategy. Do we realistically think that the legislature and the Senate, the way they're controlled, are going to change anything? So is the hope to put pressure through this type of thing and the visuals on the governor? Or how do we think any effective change is going to happen? I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer, but I'm just trying to understand where you put the effort. What do you think is the best focus?
Yeah, I think so. The whole thing is that there's so many steps in this process. We need to apply pressure at every step. So, you know, there's a hearing on Thursday. We need to come out and testify that we do not like these maps at all. Then we need, if they don't vote right away, we need to, you know, email all the committee members, tell them that we don't like these votes, and for them to vote it down and to come up with a better map. Then when it goes to the full House, we need to, you know, get everyone to talk to their individual representatives, tell them that you don't like these maps. And then once it's through that, then we put pressure on the governor, and hopefully he's heard this all the way through. You know, when we talk, when you send an email to your representatives, maybe, you know, that gets heard by the governor at some point, you know, in conversation, or like he's maybe listening to the hearing on Thursday. every step of the process, we need to come out against these maps so that, hopefully just by continued pressure, we can hopefully get this overturned in one of the steps,
Greg, I think this is as much a PR campaign as anything else. I don't really think that the House is going to overrule the Senate and change these maps.
Right.
But at every stage here, as we make comments, they are getting reported in the newspapers, online and in the papers. And that gives us ammunition when it does get either to the governor's desk or failing a veto when it gets to court. So we have to establish our standing, our efforts in this give us standing in the case should any of this end up going to court. And I'm not saying we're ready to go to court yet, because this is going to be very hard and very costly, and you don't necessarily get a better map if it goes to the courts. But that, I think, is what we have to think of. It's all PR. It's all letting the public know what's going on. So it may have long range results. Even if the map gets passed badly, people will know what happened.
Yep. And it's a 10-year process. So we can continue to educate people so that in the next 10 years, we can push for an independent redistricting commission, so that, if we're continually educating the public, continually, putting this forward, people are going to understand that these maps that were put forward this redistricting cycle are not fair for the residents of New Hampshire. And so going forward over the next 10 years, each legislative session, we can push for an independent commission for redistricting. When the 2030 election comes forward, we can push forward and say, you don't want one party to have full control over all the levels of government, or you get super unfair maps if we don't get a independent commission by that point. So it's really like a long-term strategy of educating people, informing them that these maps are not fair, and there's a process that we can use to get fair maps. And so, yeah, it's really just a full pressure kind of campaign to apply pressure to all different points, and see if we can wiggle in somewhere and and get some fair maps either sooner or later.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think throughout the whole process, we've been really trying to elevate the fact that partisan data shouldn't be used, and that the voices of voters matter in the process. And I think even from the town meeting days when folks were collecting signatures and standing up at town meeting, all the way through, I can speak from 10 years ago, there were very few people at the public hearings on redistricting and the listening sessions. And this year, the numbers of public that have been involved in this have been huge, but also the recent data that 80% of New Hampshire Granite Staters believe that the maps are unfair. That poll from UNH really illustrates that we have done tremendous amount of work educating the public around the process. And I will say that Senator Gray knew David and knew the Map-A-Thon project throughout the Senate process. It wasn't like we were quiet. And I think that, the special committee needs to hear from us now that these two maps have crossed over and we're back in the House with them.
I might just throw in too that with respect to what can we do, I've asked this question multiple times too, because I like to be a person of action. But one thing we've been talking about in the Mapathon team is what can we do to decouple the impact that redistricting has on voting. And so there are things that we can take a look at, like ranked choice voting or other approaches to voting changes that we can make that would make us more resilient to gerrymandered maps in the future. So that should also be part of our strategy.
And I think we've all learned a lot, even about component method and alternative component method and the calculation of how we calculate the deviations. So there's been a lot of learning throughout this whole process. And I think I just want to ask, how many people are coming Thursday to testify? Hands, more hands. How many people are able to write written testimony and submit it online? Great. If you need help writing your testimony, we're available if a question comes up, and these slides will be available. Sarah will send out a follow-up email for that testimony. Please address your testimony to the Special Committee on Redistricting, Chair Barbara Griffin. The hearing is at 10 a.m. on Thursday. So please make sure your testimony is submitted, and it's Senate Bill 240 and 241. Yes, is Bill Brown have his hand up for testimony or another question?
No. I'm good.
Go ahead, Bill.
No, I didn't have anything to say. My computer put my hand up when I raised it, and I didn't touch it, but no, I'm good. The last time, we're good.
This is Walter again. I'm just getting back to Bill Brown's question about Republicans in District 2, let's just say, being really pissed off. Is there a way we can put pressure on the elected reps in those districts, calling them out by name, that they represent their Republican supporters are being let down because they have no voice, and so the people in these in that district might be the ones that get a groundswell of anger about the whole thing, and you actually put the pressure on specific elected representatives or senators who are Republicans, saying, what are you going to do about this? Is that a tactic that's been tried, or is it just not viable? If you write something, if you call them out by name and saying,
Yeah,
look,
I can probably put a list of reps who are in District 2, together, and
In the new two.
yeah,
in the new two. Yeah, in the new two, because everybody wants to be reelected, I presume, and if they feel that their representatives aren't representing them, then maybe they might be a little more willing to listen. I don't know.
Right, because it'll have implications all down ballot.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
And also champion the representatives that are in against the maps.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, so if nobody has any more questions, hopefully we see everybody on Thursday.
Thanks for all your work on this, Dave. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.